The Lost Generation. Despite occurring over a century ago, the Lost Generation has many similarities to today. Growing up during this era meant facing war, a pandemic, economic hardship, and shifting social conditions. World War I was devastating. Over 70 million mobilized, 8.5 million killed, 21 million wounded, and 2 million dying of disease. The Spanish flu pandemic, 1918 to 1920, was equally merciless, with estimates of 17 to 50 million deaths worldwide, possibly up to 100 million. Post-war, the world plunged into economic turmoil, leading to the Great Depression in the 1930s, characterized by high unemployment, poverty, and hopelessness. Popular culture flourished with early cinema and magazines offering distraction. In 1920, women gained the right to vote, and new job opportunities for unmarried women expanded, especially for war widows. The era also saw the rise of the flapper, a rebellious young woman challenging social norms with a party-going attitude. Today, the Lost Generation is remembered for their resilience and ability to endure difficult times, providing insights for modern and future generations. The Greatest Generation. Known also as the World War II generation, the Greatest Generation is remembered for its heroism, technological innovation, and prosperity. Youth during this era grew up with the popularization of the radio, telephone, and automobile. It was a significant period for American culture and entertainment. Literature, arts, music, and cinema flourished, marking the golden age of Hollywood, with gangster films, music films, comedy films, and monster films drawing massive audiences. This era also saw the advent of comic books, with iconic franchises like Superman and Batman emerging. In music, genres such as jazz, blues, gospel, folk, and swing jazz became prominent. The rise of the radio had a profound impact, with millions tuning in to President Roosevelt's famous fireside chats and staying informed about the news. 16 million Americans served in World War II, the majority being members of the Greatest Generation. Of these, 38.8% were volunteers, and 61.2% were draftees, serving an average of 33 months. The United States experienced approximately 671,000 casualties. As of 2023, nearly 120,000 Americans who served in this war are still alive. The Silent Generation. The Silent Generation grew up with parents who witnessed the fall of Nazism and the rise of communism. As they came of age after World War II, they faced a shattered social order. The Soviet Union's betrayal of America's post-war agreements set the stage for a 50-year standoff between global powers. Unlike previous generations who fought for systemic change, the Silent Generation focused on working within the system, keeping their heads down, and working hard. Their formative years were heavily influenced by the golden age of radio, the rise of trade unions, the development of transatlantic flight, and the discovery of penicillin. Silents tended to marry and have children young, and their cautious approach was later criticized by more radical generations like the baby boomers. The baby boomers. The boomers, one of the most famous modern generations, shaped a highly active period in American history. Known for their high birth rates, 76 million births occurred during the 40s, 50s, and 60s due to a strong post-war economy that bolstered confidence in supporting large families. Boomers significantly influenced the economy, driving demand for products tailored to their age group, from toys to records. Luxuries like laundry machines, dishwashers, refrigerators, and telephones became accessible to the average American, raising the standard of living. Technological advances, plastics, television, magnetic tape, transistors, integrated circuits, and lasers played a key role in improving daily life. This optimism spurred a cultural boom, particularly in music, with the Beatles, Bob Dylan, the Rolling Stones, and other artists becoming immensely popular. Yet, the era faced challenges. Debates on the sexual revolution, civil rights, nuclear weaponry, ethnocultural diversity, and environmental protection were intense. Many boomers leaned towards left-leaning social causes, opposing conservative traditionalist views, leading to frequent and sometimes violent protests, especially over the prolonged Vietnam War. This period saw growing divisions and rising distrust in the government among future generations. Generation X. Generation X, often called the latchkey generation, grew up with free-range parenting, increasing divorce rates, higher maternal workforce participation, and widespread childcare options. Many returned home to empty houses and used keys to let themselves in. Known as the MTV generation, they were sometimes seen as slackers, cynical, and disaffected. Declining birth rates followed the baby boom era, influenced by the birth control pill, introduced in 1960, and legalized abortion, 1973. However, the 1965 Immigration Act brought diversity, making Gen X more culturally and ethnically varied. This era's music saw a rise in alternative rock, hip-hop, punk, post-punk, and heavy metal bands. Technological innovation thrived with home computing brands like Apple, Commodore, and Atari, and video games became popular, with arcades and home consoles by Nintendo and Atari. Gen Xers were more educated, with increased college enrollment. Individualism and entrepreneurialism defined the generation, leading to the creation of Google, Wikipedia, Amazon, and YouTube in the 90s and early 2000s. Generation Y Millennials. Millennials, the first to grow up with internet, mobile tech, and social media, are dubbed the first global generation. Yet, they're seen as the unluckiest due to slow economic growth, burdened by high student debt and childcare costs. Amid declining fertility rates worldwide, millennials have fewer children. Criticized for lower sexual activity than previous generations, they faced challenges like the U.S. hitting a record 19% unemployment in 2010, driving up youth poverty and pushing many to live with parents. Less religious but spiritual, millennials were shaped by 9/11 and the war on terrorism, fostering a digitally savvy, socially conscious generation. They're active in social and political issues, leveraging instant global information. Despite economic challenges, over 8 in 10 millennials are confident in their finances, reflecting their resilient outlook in a complex world. Generation Z, Zoomers. Zoomers aren't much different from millennials, but there are key distinctions. While millennials adapted to internet and smartphones, Zoomers were born into this digital era. They've grown up amidst social justice movements, turbulent politics like Donald Trump's rise and Black Lives Matter protests, and a pandemic disrupting their schooling and social lives. Platforms like YouTube and TikTok have reshaped how information is consumed, with algorithms influencing public discourse. Memes, once millennial jokes, now spread ideas effectively. Zoomers embrace individualism and the entrepreneurial spirit of Gen X, fueled by the internet. The gig economy and freelancing have transformed job dynamics, accelerated by the pandemic shifting work to home. Social media empowers individuals to influence culture, making roles like social media content creators and influencers highly sought after. Zoomers also grew up with influential icons like SpongeBob, shaping cultural norms profoundly. Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha, largely raised by millennials, faces an uncertain future amidst significant technological and societal changes. Termed the pandemic generation, they grew up during the pandemic, adapting to a world where education and entertainment are heavily influenced by technology. Dubbed iPad kids, they spend less time with parents, preferring independence in a digitally connected world. Expected to reach adulthood in the 2030s, they are anticipated to live longer lives globally, yet face challenges such as mental health issues, misinformation, and societal polarization.